You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby. Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
I'm Jamie.
Welcome back to One More for the Good Guys. We got a special episode today. We're celebrating our 1 year anniversary.
And our first return guest.
Yep. And we couldn't think of anyone better to return than our good buddy and soon to be yours, Mr. Brandon Fuson.
Yes.
Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, man. We'd like to say thanks to everybody for all the social media precipitation. No, it's not right. Participation.
Sure.
There you go. That do good?
Yeah. Did great.
Thanks for sharing, subscribing, liking, all that good stuff. We're literally watching it grow by the week, and our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok now has all really kind of taken off, and we're certainly very, very thankful. And, you know, it's the absolute easiest and freest way you can help the channel. So, Jamie and I thank you for that. What are you smoking?
I am smoking a Grey Cliff 1666 today. Which goes way back. I started smoking cigars in 2008, and this is one of the first cigars I smoked. The first cigar I ever smoked was a CAO MX2, and I was telling him that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But these used to come in a bundle from one of the online retailers, and they got some backstory, like it's a boutique brand, but something about whoever makes them, you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong at home, but like there's a restaurant that's been there since 1666, and now they've got that's where that number comes from. But, you know, pretty basic stick. I don't know what the construction is. I'll look it up, but it's an old favorite. You know, it's like going back and having an Astro Pop or something.
Right.
When you're a kid.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
I am smoking the Oliva V in the 135th anniversary. I mean, it is a perfecto in which I don't know if you can tell, but the foot is very tapered, very skinny. And then the head, of course, is just a regular round Parejo with a round shouldered head. I really don't know other than shape. They found these old molds, but I think it's really just kind of the same old V.
Standard V too, not a Melanio.
Yeah, not a Melanio.
Yeah.
But you know, Ecuador Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan fillers and binders. Just a great stick. I've got a little bit of bourbon here to go with it, and pairs very nicely with that. It's woody, a little coffee, got some caramel sweetness to it, and all that good stuff. So, and you know, we were just talking about Oliva
on a previous show.
You can even find this if you like. These come in boxes of 12. It's really a beautiful, beautiful box. Maybe we'll try to post a picture of that on the Instagram page where you can see what that looks like. But beautiful box, but you can find them for very cheap and very economical stick, as well as the regular Olivas. This is in Perfecto size. I think it's like 5.5 by 54. So
54 on one end and 42 on another.
28.
Yeah. The box of 12. It comes in box of 12.
Yeah.
It's an odd size.
I got a really, really killer deal on it, and I bought this cigar is probably a couple of years old now. But I've got, I don't know, I've probably got 4 or 5 of them left somewhere.
Yeah. You gave me a couple of them, and
yeah,
I was concerned that the draw was going to be weird.
I was too.
But it's not.
And the draw's great.
Yeah.
Now it does open up once it gets up here to the 54 size, but it's not. I mean, I've made one cut, and I basically cut the cap off of it but yeah, draw's good. It always burns well. I enjoy it. What are you smoking, Brandon?
I got the Hoya de Nicaragua, Connecticut, and Tano. These are really good. And we was talking earlier about, how that when you first get into cigars, you just go, you trying to find your brand and find what you like. And this is one of the first ones that I remember going, wait, I want to, along with the Lama de Cuba, I was like, these are one I want to have around.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're in any time of day smoke, too.
They are.
Yeah.
They're not just a coffee Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
They go great with a cup of coffee, but you could have one in the middle of the day anytime.
Yeah.
You offered, you a while ago, you said you want something you've not had before. You want one of these? I was like, I'm not going to turn it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. What you been into, buddy?
I've been YouTubing it and doing my YouTube channel and everything. And I've been recording some new music. I started going back, looking into my catalog and finding some songs that had kind of fell through the cracks for me.
Yeah.
Me and my good buddy Brian Stansbury went up to the studio and started recording some songs. And I had written a couple of political, satirical type tunes. But when I go to the studio, it's like I don't want to just go in and record one song. I mean, if you're gonna set the drums up and set everybody up, you might as well knock out some more. So I just started going back through my catalog and digging in and finding some that kind of fell through the cracks, and started recording those. And before I knew it, we kind of had an album mapped out, and we've been having a lot of fun doing that. And it's just mainly been me and him on the recordings.
He's a drummer.
He's a drummer, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, he plays drums, and me and him's kind of been splitting up the bass duty. And I've been playing some bass on some of my songs. I've never played bass on any of my recordings.
Oh yeah,
but I've really enjoyed it. I've kind of wore a callus on my thumb. I can't play with my fingers. I see you do it, make it look easy. Everybody does that. It looks so cool. But I don't know if it's where I've been a guitar player for so long and I'm used to having a pick in my thumb. But I've wore me a pretty good blister doing some bass lines. And so and it's caused me to, I don't know, playing bass on a song makes me hear the song completely different.
It really does.
It really does. Yeah. And you get more into the melodic side of it. And I have to say, just in the last couple of months doing that, I've kind of learned my scales of my notes better than I realized I knew them. You know what I mean? Because you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, you need. My problem with bass was always I knew where I was going, but I didn't know how to get back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I always fought with that when I played bass.
Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun.
Upright or electric. But yeah, man, get you some super glue, buddy.
Yeah.
Bust that blister and fill that son of a bitch up with super glue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go right back after it. I had to do it a bunch.
I'll tell you what, when you're learning to play bass, one thing that helped me on both those fronts, the finger thing, first of all, Rick Wolf from Pick and Green was a great bass player, and I worked with him, and that stroke with the fingers, I would just sit with the bass, not on or anything, and I would just pull the strings. I wouldn't worry about the left hand. I would just get that rest stroke down from one string to the next, because you're basically just trying to play through one string and land on another to hold in. And on the getting back to where you start thing, Rick always taught me that you wanted your middle finger on your one, because that way your three, here, three's up there, you don't have to reach as much. So if you always start with your middle finger on your one, you can get back.
That's interesting.
So those couple of things really helped me a lot. But there's a lot of great bass players that play with their thumb. I mean, Clint plays with his thumb all the time.
Clint plays with his thumb a lot.
Yeah.
Clint Mullican, and he can lay it down.
I know Tommy Caldwell from the Marshall Tucker Band played with his thumb. So did Toy Caldwell, the guitar player. They were brothers. They both play with their thumb. And I'm a big Drive-By Truckers fan, and they went through a phase where Shauna Tucker, the bass player, left the band, and now they've got Matt Patton, who I love to sit and watch play. When I go watch them, I almost prefer to kind of stand where he's at, just because I love the energy he's got and just the way he goes about it. But there was a phase where they had their producer, David Barbie, playing with them, and I got to see a couple of shows with him on bass, and I just noticed him playing with his thumb, and for some reason, that's just kind of what I've gravitated toward.
Right. On that.
But eventually, I'd love to. I have sit around, kind of like you're talking about. I have sit around just by myself with the bass not even plugged in, just kind of trying to get the feel of the fingers.
Yeah.
But it's just it's so different to me, where I've got so used to. I guess maybe it's where I'm used to having a pick in my hand.
Yeah.
Probably so. I mean, it's going to. I mean, anything like that's going to be foreign to you for at least several months, probably.
Oh yeah.
Or it would be for me.
Yeah.
I would feel that way about it.
Yeah, it's not I've heard that if you're a classical guitar player where you play finger style a lot, that it makes it a lot easier because the stroke's similar, the wrist stroke. But yeah, it's completely different than
it is. And I'm trying to learn to not play it like a guitar player. It's one of those things, because you have to, Brian was talking about it, it's a rhythmic instrument. It's part of the rhythm section.
Right.
And a lot of times people that play guitar and play bass, if they started off on guitar, it's like they try to overplay like a guitar player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've had to learn how to lay back at certain points and not play. Like when we was doing an instrumental that I'd wrote, and I actually started writing it on the bass. And when we got in the studio with it, I was like, okay, I realize now that a lot of these notes I was trying to play ain't really going to fit. I've got to get it to get in sync with the kick drum.
Yeah.
I've got to not play right here.
Right.
But it's been a lot of fun, and like I said, it's just caused me to look at the songs different and hear them different. Because I've always my whole life playing music, I've always played to the bass player. I've sang to the bass player, and anyone on stage could hit an off note, and it'll just roll off me. But if the bass player hits a off note, it's like a shock to my system, because I'm singing to it. You know what I mean? And if I hear them get lost, then I'm more apt to go, wait, what was that?
Yeah. So is everybody in the audience, because they hear that.
Yeah, you can't really, you can't hardly, on a guitar, you can kind of slide your way around and cover a mistake. If you hit a bad note on the bass, it really jumps out.
That's right, yeah.
And
especially in our type of music.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, yeah.
I didn't realize, when you hear country bass play, take Waylon Jennings, for example, you just hear that boom, 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 boom. You think, that ain't hard, until you start trying to do it. And then make it make sense.
Time for 5 minutes.
Trying to do it in time and in sync, and get your fill notes in there with it to make it all flow. It's definitely caused me, when I'm riding down the road listening to music now, I'm focusing way harder on the bass player.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Waylon Jennings, because I can remember before I knew anything about Waylon or anything about playing bass or any of that, I remember thinking, it's that Waylon sound. And then I found out that, Waylon was Buddy Holly's bass player. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
For a while there. So if you'll hear Waylon stuff, you can tell immediately that it's a Waylon song.
Yeah.
Just from the bass. It's like that tone and that's who.
Well, in the sync, like he's talking about with the kick, it's right there.
Yeah.
On top of it.
And I've been in a studio too. I've had moments where I've seen bass players, patch themselves in. Like they're like, "I'll back me up just a minute. I'll patch in." But I'm not really good enough to do that, because I'm so lost in the melody in the bass line that I'm like, you know what? Just back it up. Let me start over. Just let me play this till I get it right, because it's really hard for me to just come in on an off note. Or like with guitar playing is nothing. If you're in the studio, you're playing rhythm guitar, you make a mistake. Yeah, back me up, patch me in. I can come in, no problem.
Right.
But with a bass, it's a lot for me doing it now. It's a lot harder to come in. So I'm like, no, just back me up. Let me start it over.
Yeah. Well, have you been trying to sing and do it too?
I've not tried that yet. That's a completely different world. I did just a little bit on the couch one day, just sitting around playing. I was like, man, now this is, a good friend of mine was telling me about, muscle memory, because I had a buddy that could play rhythm guitar and bass, and I went and watched his band back when I was younger. I'd go watch his band play, and that was a buddy of mine's dad. And, he could play bass lines like I Know a Little by Skinner and could sing at the same time.
Right.
And I'm sitting there watching that, and he's singing his ass off playing that. Man, I'm not there yet. No. There's no way I could play a line like that. I'm just sort of like locked in, looking like straight ahead, like kind of like don't nobody do anything. Let me get through this.
Yeah.
But
I started that with, there was an opportunity to play with this group, for a thing that the city of Gallenberg was doing one time but the guys needed a bass player, an upright player.
Oh, that's a different animal there.
Well, and I had one. I always loved fooling around with them.
Mm.
But the great thing about this gig was it was a turnover you were out on the streets, so it was a turnover for the crowd. So you only played 10 or 15 minutes at a time. And then you'd break for like 20 minutes. Because they had it. Their analytic department had decided that that's how long it took for you to get new people in front of you. And look at that son of a bitch. Boy, if you wasn't sitting on that board, I would set you on fire. God, I'm resisting. Son of a bitch.
You're the Grim Reaper for those things, aren't you? Jesus Christ.
Stink bug landed on the thing.
It's like me and crows. Every time I see a crow, I know that son of a bitch knows I killed his brother at one time.
Yeah.
He's like, stay away from that bastard.
These cigar lighters the best thing ever for stink bug extermination.
Yeah.
Or for any extermination, really.
But if you hit them in the ass, they'll drop, and then you can't find them. But if you just hit them right in the head with about 3,000 degrees of butane flame, they'll drop, but they just go in a circle. And that makes me happy. But, so I told those guys, I said, well, I can do it. I said, but you'll have to. I said, I can't lead you through a bunch of songs. I said, I can do a couple of set, something pretty easy than 3 chords, and all I'm doing is boom, boom anyway, tick tock, with the bluegrass, very traditional style bluegrass stuff. So I did it for a while, but and was glad because they paid well and all that good stuff. But I always thought about trying to play country music or any other type, even a little more progressive style other than traditional bluegrass. And I just was like, wait a minute, I may have to cut my brain in half.
Yeah.
To be able to figure it out, to be able to do it all, I got the peanut butter, I got the jelly.
Yeah.
But I got to have them both.
Yeah, exactly.
But, well, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, and you can certainly at any length or whatever, but you got anything you want to plug? You want to plug your channel and all that good stuff?
I'm on YouTube. I'm on all the apps, but I'm on YouTube as Tennessee Brando. If you spell Tennessee all the way out, then on like TikTok, I'm TN_Brando. And I just sort of like accidentally fell into that name. It wasn't on purpose. When I first started when my platform started getting bigger on TikTok, at first I just had my music on there and I was just recording some, licks from, being in the studio, record a music spot or whatever. And then one day I just started randomly doing these hot takes on things that was going on, current events and things like that. And it started catching on and I realized it was catching on and I was like, well, wait a minute. So growing up, my grandmother always called me Brando. As a matter of fact, if she said Brandon, I knew either A, I was in trouble, or B, something was wrong. It's like she had bad news. So I just thought, well, I'll just put Brando. And when I entered that name into TikTok, of course, it was already taken.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm from Tennessee, so I'll just put the TN, the underscore, and the Brando, and I'm Brando. That's kind of how I looked at it in my mind. And then people started stitching my videos on TikTok and being like, hey, there's a guy named Tennessee Brando, and started saying it out that way. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that just picked up steam before I meant for it to. But we're always doing, we're always talking wrestling and making pro wrestling analogies. And I've always said, I heard Stone Cold Steve Austin one time say that the name Stone Cold Steve Austin was just Steve Williams with the volume turned all the way up. And that's kind of what Tennessee Brando became. It's just me sitting there with the volume full blast. So just kind of one of those things I kind of fell into.
Well, you've certainly done well with it, and
thank you.
I mean, it was like one day you had 2 followers, and the next day you had like
100,000.
100,000. You know, it's like, what the hell's Brandon doing?
Yeah, I know. I was saying the same thing. I was like, what if I was kind of like the dog that chased the car and caught it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's been good. It's been good for you. You're. I imagine. It's been good for your family life.
Yeah.
With the kids and your mom and dad and everything.
Yeah.
Seem like you're in a much better. I mean, and we all are to sorts, but just seems like you're in just when I talk to you, it seems like you're in just a better place than you have been in a long, long time. And it's good because you're one of the good guys.
I appreciate you saying that, man. I do. I've sort of, like I said, I'm still at times I try to wrap my mind around it all and be like, how'd that happen? Because I've never really planned anything. Anything that I've ever planned to do, I failed miserably. Like, and that's why, like, all the years playing music, I hardly ever had a set list in front of me unless I was doing like a radio show. Like if I did the 6 o'clock swerve with Wayne Bledsoe or a Blue Plate special, of course, I'd have an idea of what I was going to play. But all those years of playing music in front of people, I'd go out to play. Well, I'd play a song. I'd play a set one night and it'd go over like gold. I'm like, okay, let's do that again the next night. Do it the next night to the same exact group of people and it just fall flat. And they're looking at you like, and I had to learn to change it up. And so everything I've always done has always just been off the cuff. And I would go to the shows and didn't necessarily know what songs I was going to play. I just kind of adapted to whatever audience was in front of me. And there'd be nights that, I would start playing. And if I played a couple of songs and then say I busted out a Merle Haggard tune and that went over. Well, I remember one night I played at a place called the Roman Gnome in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah.
I had a piano player that could really, play that Jerry Lee Lewis style of piano. And everything we was playing was just falling flat with it's like we were just playing and we weren't even getting golf claps. It was just chatter, And then I was like, I'll play some Jerry Lee Lewis, and I sung some Whole Lot of Shaking Going On and the place went nuts. People started dancing. And I was like, okay, play another Jerry Lee. And pretty soon we're just down that, we're going down that vein of playing. And that's just always been me in my life. I've always just whatever, I just played to the audience in front of me.
We've started doing, and it worked out really good. Last Friday night, we were down at the Jig and Reel, and I had started playing around with like medleys, of putting 2 or 3 songs together and either playing parts of them or playing them all the way out, but doing it all at one time. So you're covering 10 or 11 minutes, with a country type song,
Yeah.
And that seems to be going over pretty well. Something that's similar enough that we don't get confused, but we can stay, like stay on the one and then get back in there and start the other song, or something that maybe has a signature lick, that'll lead us into the song change. But we had a crowd the other night that was just, they were a lively, good crowd. They were
great crowd. It was packed, man.
They were interested in what we were doing, but you couldn't stop for a minute to let down, to maybe slide in. I mean, we did 2 or 3 ballads and they went over fine. A couple of them went over really good, but it was going to be, we mixed in enough original stuff, but it was going to be stuff that was upbeat, and they wanted the stuff that was more familiar, I guess. Not necessarily some of the covers we play are 60 years old now, but if it's but if it's familiar, then you get it back from them, and
that's something crazy too.
That's
something crazy too when you stop and think about it. There's songs we started playing 30 years ago.
Oh yeah,
that at the time was, maybe considered classic rock or whatever, classic country or whatever it was called. And now you all of a sudden you go, damn, that song's 50, 60 years old now. I've been playing it so long. And a lot of times, like, when it comes to that, a lot of times I'll say, here's a new song. In my mind, I'm like, here's a new song. And it came out like 05 or something. But to me, in my brain, that's new.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's funny. I heard an interview with Gary Rossington from Skinner before he passed away, and he said something that made me really stop in my tracks and think. He was like, when Skinner had their plane crash in 77, I mean, Freebird was still relatively a new song at that point. They had only been playing it a couple of years.
Right.
If you think back to like when they started in 73 with their first album, which I think they did in 71, they did the Muscle Shoals album, but then 73 is when they put out that Pronounced Leonard Skinner, and then 77, that's it. You think back like in the terms of like, okay, that'd be like now it's 2024. That'd be like in 2021, that they started. So he made the comment. He said, I got to play Ronnie Van Zant's songs longer than he ever did. I got to do them longer than he did. And then all of a sudden it kind of hit me. I was like, we have too. I mean, all the years we've played these songs, we've played them longer. If you're playing a Hank Williams song, you got to play it way longer than Hank Williams ever got to play it.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of a humbling thought when you stop and think about it.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah.
He's been gone 73 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Are you still recording over with John?
No, I'm actually recording a good buddy of mine, Odell Brummett. He's up in Huntsville, and he's played around in different cover bands over the years. I recorded a lot of the Real Billy's music back in the day with him, and just started kind of reconnecting, started doing it again. He's just a really fun guy to be around.
Yeah,
and we get along great, and had a lot of fun reconnecting with him because he played in the same kind of bars I did back in the day. We never played in the same band, but we was kind of playing the same places.
The circuit.
And when we would get together at his studio, it was always like, well, how'd your weekend go with the Starlight Jellicoe or whatever,
Did you hear what this asshole did last night?
Or how are they reacting to these songs you're playing or whatever. And so now it's kind of, we're doing that again. We're catching up on things and comparing notes. And he's still out there playing, still hitting it pretty hard and doing his thing. He's always played in 3-piece bands. And he's always preferred it that way. But like I said, it's one of those things. I don't think we've ever been on stage together. I've went out and watched him play. He's came and watched me play. But he's been around a long time doing his thing.
What does he play?
Guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a guitar player and singer.
Yeah.
And he just a really good dude to be around. We've just been having a lot of fun up there doing that with him.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's always nice to reconnect with folks.
Yeah, it is.
I was thinking about that set the other night, and you mentioned those Jerry Lee songs, how you start playing stuff like that and everybody knows them. The other night started kind of slow a little bit, even though it was packed. But when you kicked off Never Can Tell, that Chuck Berry tune.
Oh, I know.
Everybody was like, and that's for Chuck Berry tune. That's kind of an obscure one, really. It's not, Nadine or whatever. And man, I heard people in the audience start singing with us. I was like, holy hell, that's.
Oh, yeah. They were singing along with that one. I always thought Nadine was a little more. I always thought, like you think of the classics with Chuck would be, Go Johnny Go and No Particular Place to Go. I always loved that one.
Me too. Yeah.
It was told such a good story. I mean, it told the story of my teenage years of being up in the morning and out to school.
Yeah.
That coffee colored Cadillac got me.
Yeah, that was good.
Lyric. That's
another one and we've done it a few times, but we do the Johnny Rivers version, which is a great version. I probably like it better. But that Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
That's such a great written song too.
It really is.
Hurry home drops on her cheek.
Yeah.
Because the little girl was crying for her daddy to get back home. Hurry home drops.
Yeah.
It's like, man.
Great songwriter.
Yeah, there's so much good lyrics from that. And I always love the line in Brown Eyed Handsome Man where he says she lost both her arms in a wrestling match to get a brown eyed handsome man. It's just like so many. A lot of those lyrics, they just really leap off the page. You
got one of those bastards on your shoulder.
Oh, do it. Oh.
Yeah.
Don't torch me.
No, don't light it on fire.
There we go.
Motherfucker. Hate those things. Set you on fire. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Have a great white moment.
That's not too soon. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. But yeah, I always like Chuck. There's another one. There's a scene. I've probably said this on here before, maybe. I don't know. But There's a scene in The Sopranos. It's called, the song is named Let It Roll On. And there's a scene in The Sopranos where Tony and Christopher are in the basement, and Tony realizes he's got to kill Christopher.
You know, I've never watched The Sopranos.
Oh my God.
Believe it or not, I've not.
So good.
Dude,
I got to.
You got to, man. Yeah. It's so good. But there's a part in it, and that song comes on, and it's just the message is, it's got to go on. Train's got to roll on. There ain't no stopping the train.
And to say it up a little further, they can only, it's at Tony's house, and they always go down the basement film to discuss business.
Yeah,
and they turn music on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a great show. Wow, it's so good.
I'm afraid they're being bugged by the feds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, man, you should.
Yeah, I don't know why I just
that.
never got around to it. I love watching a lot of shows and getting into new shows. I recently started one called Your Honor with Bryan Cranston.
I've seen that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's just 2 seasons. I really enjoyed that. I just finished that one, so now I'm looking for something new to watch.
Yeah, man, go revisit visit The Sopranos or The Wire. Did you ever see The Wire from HBO?
God, that might be the 2 best shows ever.
Yeah,
really. I mean, they're way up there.
They're really, really good.
It's set in Baltimore. It's a cop drama thing.
That's
The Wire is
about the struggle and the pull between right and wrong of the hood and the badge.
Yeah,
it's pretty great. And I'm not one of those. I'm not a big I don't know. I just never been big cop show fans for a lot of that stuff because a lot of it's so cliche.
Mm.
This was, the writing, this was just better.
Yeah.
You looked at everything from a different angle.
Yeah.
Than what you would, watching Blue Bloods or some shit.
Yeah.
I'm not shitting on Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods good too.
This is the first thing that popped in my head.
But completely, The Wire is completely different, man. It's just, but Sopranos changed television. All this new TV is because of Sopranos.
Did you watch?
Really?
Did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
All right. So, the lead character in The Sopranos, Tony Soprano, he's every bit as mean, manipulative, evil, bad guy as Walter White was.
Yeah.
But in the way that it's written, you find yourself pulling for him.
Yeah. So
it's completely against what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because this guy's a fucking murderer.
Yeah.
He's a guy, that.
But
I gotta get the papers. Get the papers.
Yeah.
Just like Walter White.
Yeah.
So that's what. And then with The Wire, there's some of that with the police force and stuff.
I think there's so many shows like that that's got such great writing, and you end up pulling for someone like that. I remember one time I've probably watched Breaking Bad at least 4 times all the way through, and I've watched Better Call Saul. I love it too. And
nearly as good.
Yeah, it is. It's great. That whole all of it together is just such a great piece of work. But I remember one time I was talking with a friend of mine, and I was just talking about oh man, that Skylar's such a bitch or whatever. I was talking about some particular scene, and he's like, "Well, dude, do you realize really, in all honesty, she's actually got a point here."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I've caught myself now pulling for Walter White.
Yeah, I still hate her.
Yeah, it's like one of those things.
Yeah. Hey, I'll let this go out. I'm going to give you guys a little pro tip here. So if you find yourself with your cigar that's going out, here's how you relight it. Just take it, roll it around, knock all the ash off. If you're somewhere where you can do this.
Don't smush it, though.
Just blow it like that, knock all the loose ash off of it. You take your lighter, just go around and get it good, get it good and red around the edges. Kind of toast it up a little bit. But now, what you're going to do is you're going to leave this lit, and instead of drawing in, you're going to blow out. you're lit back, and what that does when you blow out is it blows any loose ash, so you're not going to get that charred taste back in your mouth of like it's been laying in the ashtray for half a day or whatever. I just thought about that while it was happening. But pro tip for you there. Yeah, I would recommend Sopranos, man. There's a lot to dig in there. A lot of stuff.
It's been on my list for a while to start.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to for a long time. Yeah.
Okay.
It's time. We'll get on that.
I mean, it's about as old as fucking the Freebird covers.
Yeah. That's what's funny. Again, like to me, I would probably say that's a new show. What year did it start?
99.
99. Wow.
25 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's second best TV character of all time.
Oh,
Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
First is Barney Fife. Second is Tony Soprano.
I love Barney Fife.
I do too. It's just that show's a genius and wholly different. I tell people all the time, like, what's your favorite television shows? I got two. They're tied for one. It's Sopranos. Or I love that. And it's the Andy Griffith Show. Those two. It's two. Opposite ends of the spectrum, but man.
Oh man, I grew up on Andy Griffith to the point that I can watch it with the volume down and I know what they're saying.
Oh, me too.
It's like I know exactly what they're saying. I can sit there and like just move my mouth with what they're saying.
Oh, Jamie's eat up with it. He knows them. And I tell you, I got this from Benny Smith. And Benny, if you're watching, you need to get your ass to the honky tonk.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The one where the attaboy Luther.
Oh, Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Yeah.
Man, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, like I'll start naming favorite movies, and like you saying Sopranos and Andy Griffith. I mean, I can start naming favorite movies, and Ghost of Mr. Chicken's going to be in there with it. He just had that down to us. That he had that nervous character. Like he was pretty much Barney Fife in every movie. You know what I mean? But he twisted it just enough to where he made it a new character. I say that boy Luther to my kids all the time.
Private Eyes is my favorite.
With Tim Conway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I watched some I don't know what. I wasn't high. I wasn't smoking. I hadn't burnt.
I don't believe that at all.
I hadn't burnt. No, I really hadn't burnt one or anything. And I just came in here one evening. I was just like nothing. I thought usually I'll catch up because I just about refuse to watch the Sports Center and all that shit anymore.
Yeah, I won't watch them.
So I'll catch up with Dan Patrick or Rich Eisen or so I'll check out YouTube clips of all that stuff of things I wanting to know about and things that are going on in like the sports stuff and then a few other channels. And for whatever reason, I got on this thing of like, basically it was Tim Conway's best hits for like Carol Burnett.
Oh my
God.
And man, he tormented Harvey Korman.
Yes.
He tormented him. And there was the one that was so fucking funny. I mean, all of them were funny, but this one was just stood out of how like physical. I mean, he not only was he quick witted and could come back with stuff, but physical comedy.
Yeah,
he was a genius.
He was.
But they had the ones. They had the one clip where he's coming down the steps and he's the old man.
Yeah.
But he falls in slow motion. So he's like rolling over, and he's coming back up and then he hits it again. Oh my gosh.
I loved how Harvey Korman could never hold a straight face. That made it even funnier to me. I loved Carl Burnett growing up.
Yeah.
So I was like an only child and my mom and dad, they were both kids of the 50s and 60s. And so growing up, man, I watched their TV, listened to their music, and I never complained. Like I was one of those kids, like I was in the 80s going to school, whatever the kids was watching on TV, which don't get me wrong, I watched the 80s shows too.
Yeah,
the A-Team, Dukes of Hazzard.
Sure,
of course, I watched whatever was out there. But I was going back and watching, Carol Burnett and watching Andy Griffith and different shows like that. Sanford Son, All in the Family, just all those shows. And I've ended up passing them on down to my kids and they love it. It's one of those things like my grandson's 3 years old and my daughter says he'll sit on the floor and just watch Andy Griffith and just laugh at it. He doesn't even really old enough to understand it yet. But it's just one of those timeless things because, like, I think what makes Andy Griffith so great is, and I think why we can still laugh at it all these years later, is because we're laughing at the characters.
Oh yeah,
it's not one-liners.
Yeah.
If it was all just one-liner jokes, that would get old.
Yeah.
But it's the situation. It's the characters.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite scenes of all time with Andy Griffith is when him and Floyd's just sitting outside talking and they look over and I don't remember exactly what it is. I think he says something like, everybody complains about the weather and no one does nothing about it. He's like, you know who said that? He's like, Mark Twain said that or whatever. Or no, he goes, Calvin Coolidge said that. And Andy Griffith's like, no, like, that was Mark Twain or whatever. He's like, I thought it was Calvin Coolidge. He's like, no, Floyd. He's like, well, what did Calvin Coolidge say? He's like, well, I don't know, Floyd. I love that. That's just, I could watch that 1,000 times. I'm going to laugh every time I see it.
Well, it's so real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they wrote it, but it's like what we might say to one another, you know?
My favorite Barney Fife thing is in the episode when the inspector's coming and Opie brings all those dogs into the thing.
God, it's great.
And so the inspector's coming and they take the dogs and they're like, because Barney's worked up. He's like, oh, the inspector sees these dogs here. So he takes them out and puts them out in the field somewhere and comes back. And it's one of the few times on the Andy Griffith Show where it rained in the show. So it's storming, starting to storm.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
And Opie's like, what are we going to do, Paul? And then Barney starts talking about dogs and how they look out for each other and whatever. And he goes, you know, they take care of their own. And he goes, now giraffes don't.
Yeah.
He said, giraffes don't, but these dogs, they do. And then finally Barney pauses. He goes, boy, giraffes are selfish. And I can rewind that and watch it over and over again and just cry, man.
The one I loved was with Tim Conway and Don Knotts was the Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. When they would show that in school, it was like,
yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's such great
Sorry,
TV.
shut your leg, Frank.
I love the one where Barney gets into the black magic, the Countess Fontalecki. I love that one. And I love it that, like, at the end, Andy makes him throw all that stuff away. Yeah. And he throws it away. And then Opie had made a wish. And the wish was that, you know, Helen would still be his teacher. And she's like, this evening I got promoted to whatever grade. And Barney he goes over, starts pulling the stuff out of the trash. I love that. He had such great physical humor and timing was impeccable, but he could also tug at your heartstrings and like get you in your gut, you know, and there was the episode where they came in and they said that Andy wouldn't fit to be sheriff, you know, and Barney told that real good looking lady, he started telling her things Andy did, like, Andy, you know, he'd give this lady a ride or he wouldn't, you know, all this stuff he did. And while he was on patrol, like he's kind of running Andy down a little bit. And then there's that spot where it's on the stand and
they're
he's
on trial. Yeah,
they're on trial. And he's like, no, Andy Taylor's, you know, a good man. And he gets kind of emotional about it. And I keep watching that. Even now, if I watch it, I'm like, damn, man, it's like deep, you know?
Yeah.
I'll own it. I've teared up on a few of them.
Yeah, man, I tell you, and the crazy thing about it is obviously, and I've heard Andy talk about this in interviews, that when they went into that show, Barney was an afterthought. Like, you know, he had worked with him some, and with No Time for Sergeants, they were in that together, weren't they?
Yeah.
And so he brings him on. He said, but I figured out really quickly in the season 1 that I was just going to sit back and let Barney do his thing.
Yeah.
And man, that takes a lot of gut, you know, because Andy was a bigger star at that time.
He was.
The goddamn show was named after you.
Yeah. And he did that skit called, I don't know if y'all heard it, called What It Was Football.
Oh.
Andy Griffith.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite skits. I love that.
That's a good one.
You know, I like that what he says. He talks about, he's like, and all of a sudden about 40 men come barreling out of this little old outhouse down there. You know, it's just so great. But, you know, I heard that too, where he said that, you know, at first he was going to be, because if you'll notice those early Andy Griffith shows, Andy is more kind of like he was in No Time for Sergeants. He's a little bit more slapstick, a little bit more funny.
Yeah.
But then he realized real quick, no, Don Knotts is the funny guy. I got to be straight to him.
I got to be straight. I got to be stoic.
And so That's just one of those timeless shows.
Yeah, you can see the transition of him from that to when he became a little more stoic, and then he got his lines then where he needed them, you know, where it counted, like when he was basically trying to either smooth things back over or make Aunt B or Opie or Barney or any of the damn townspeople fool them into thinking that it was their idea from the beginning. You know, he was very sly, and stoic like that to not ever take anything away from anybody.
And one of those little random facts that I learned not too long ago, actually, it kind of blew my mind when it was said out loud, but the character Ernest T. Bass, he was only on like 5 or 6 episodes.
He was one of the producers.
But he produced it. He also was in some episodes where he was playing a different character.
Yeah.
But when you say Ernest T. Bass, I would say he was on, I mean, there was like 249 episodes, I think. You would think he'd been on like, dozens of them, but he was only on like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But he made such an impact on everyone that he was on that it's hard to believe. I remember there was one episode where Andy's going to take a vacation, goes down to the lake, takes Helen, he's going to camp out and fish. And Barney brings Andy, or Barney brings the TV repairman down. And that's Howard Morris, Ernest T. Bass, you know.
That's right. Yeah. And I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Such a great show.
I'll tell you another one that had genius comedic comedy, and I don't know, you might have said it when we were doing the other the cigar episode, but the Jackie Gleason, the Honeymooners.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All of that stuff was just, if you want to learn comedy, and comedy is timing.
Yeah.
Man, there's master classes out there to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
And I grew up watching that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
There's only one season of the show.
Really?
Yeah.
There's 33 episodes.
I did not know that.
I didn't either, because it was always on.
Yeah.
Syndication. And, that came out of the Jackie Gleason show. That was a skit during the Jackie Gleason. They only ran in one season.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But like that one and I Love Lucy.
Yeah, that's another great one.
I mean, all of those. Andy Griffith.
I'll tell you a show that back when I was growing up, I really didn't pay attention to. My grandmother watched it all the time, and I didn't really. I would kind of see it on and just keep walking, didn't pay attention. Was the show MASH?
Yeah.
I did, and then when I got older, one day I actually said out loud to my mom, I was like, "Yeah, I never really got into MASH much." I was like, I'd seen Nana watching it, and I just never really got into it much. And Mom's like, "Well, did you ever really learn the characters? Did you learn what they were about?"
Right.
And then I started watching it and zeroing in on the characters. And to be dead honest with you guys, like MASH ended up playing a part. I'd give it like props for a songwriting influence, because I loved the dark humor in it. I loved how that they were in a dead serious situation, but they found a way to make it funny. But there was also a sadness there. And years later, when I'd be writing songs, I've wrote songs that are funny, and I've had people burst out laughing when I hit the punchline. But one of my songs I wrote with my good buddy Gary Lee, it was called "Eating in the Yard."
Yeah,
the shitting in the house, eating in the yard song that we wrote. I'll be honest, I was kind of leaning on my MASH influence, because to me, it's a sad story if you really zero in on what I'm talking about, because this guy has got his disability check, and now he thinks he's hit the big time. He's made it, and it's one of those songs where I hit that punchline and the crowd laughs, and I'm like, but really, if you stop and think about it, there's a sadness to it.
Yeah,
and really, a show like MASH, there was an episode I never will forget where they would always kind of have like 2 storylines going on at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And there was an episode where Colonel Potter was trying to help there was this boy trying to commit suicide. He had got his face like injured, and he didn't want to go home and see his girlfriend. He's like, she'll never love me again. Right. So he kept trying to commit suicide, and Colonel Potter was trying to get him not to, and he stopped him from doing it several times. At the same time, over here on the other story, Hawkeye and BJ hadn't took a bath in a while, and Winchester was blowing his horn, and they told Winchester, like, "Hey, quit blowing that horn. We're tired of hearing it." He's like, "Well, I'm tired of your smell." And so it became this argument between them, like, "Okay, we're not going to take it. Yeah, I'll show you. We won't take a bath until you quit blowing that horn. And I'm not going to quit blowing this horn." And that's going on while Colonel Potter's dealing with this very serious situation. And at the end, when he convinces the boy to live, and make it. He comes walking out and he sees them arguing and he just grabs that horn and throws it in the middle of the road and this truck runs over it. And I always love that episode because it's like you've got something real serious happening here, but something ridiculous happening here, and they both intertwine together.
I had the same experience with MASH because, obviously it's a big deal for our parents. And it's one of the few times a TV series was birthed out of a movie because the movie was first. But I was like you. I was like, oh, here's that fucking song again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And so I started watching it last year and I watched like the first season. Yeah. And I watched it and I was like, this show is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only episode I can remember from a kid, and I don't know what episode it is, but the scene was this, is they were somewhere and the enemy was there, troops, and they were trying to be really quiet. And this lady had a baby that was crying.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And she smothers it.
That's the last episode, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the goodbye, farewell, amen.
Okay. And she smothers it, and I was like, man, so that one impacted too. So knowing it's the last one now, I didn't know that, but yeah.
Because Hawkeye in that storyline, he's going to therapy for it. He actually had to go over and take some therapy for it. And at first he keeps talking about it being a chicken. And
that's right. Yeah.
The psychiatrist is like, why did you get so upset over a chicken? You can't figure it out at first. And then finally Hawkeye has that moment. It was a baby. And I remember that, like, there would be like some really gut wrenching moments. And I remember another episode where I always thought was really creepy, where they showed it from the whole show was shown from a soldier's point of view who had died. And he's literally saying to him, like, hey, I'm right here, guys. I'm over here. I'm okay. And they're like, and the father's reading the last rites.
Right.
You would be, like I said, you might watch one episode and it might be hilarious. You may laugh your ass off, and the next one will be morbid as could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of writing.
And after I saw that first season, I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
That this is why this was so important. I'm that way with All in the Family too, because you can watch All in the Family right now, and it's just as pertinent right now as it was then.
Every social issue, every racist issue, every political issue, it's all.
And it's just every character in that is perfect.
Yeah.
The cast is perfect. And Carol O'Connor is just,
He was a hell of an actor too. I think he's criminally underrated because he played Archie Bunker to a T, and then he turned around and played Bill Gillespie on In the Heat of the Night. Two completely different worlds. Like if you watch those two shows side by side, you go, is that the same dude?
Yeah.
When you think about this is the way I always thought about him as an actor was, okay, you had him as Archie. Pardon me, guys. You had him as Archie Bunker, and he was kind of like Andy with the fact that he would let Don Knotts be the funny guy.
In his case, right.
Yeah.
And Andy would get his where it came, right? Well, with Bunker, when you're that far out there, you're that radical as a character to allow yourself to be the butt of every joke.
Yeah.
And not care or know that's what makes it great.
Yeah.
And then go to something like Heat of the Night to where he's more like, the stoic.
Yeah.
The guy that knows the law, the guy that's going to try to step up and do the absolute right thing. Which is a great
movie too, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
I guess what I'm trying to say is it just really lends itself to understanding, I guess, as an actor, understanding your role and being okay with accepting it. And that's what makes you be able to pretend like you're whoever the hell you want to be, I guess.
Yeah. It's something too about All in the Family that's always struck a chord with me is that if that was real life, like if it was a real life situation, then I'd be meathead. You know what I mean? I'd be the guy.
Totally.
I'd be the guy arguing with Archie.
Yeah.
And I'd be the guy, telling Archie he was a bigot and all these things. But when you watch that
we
show,
were going to talk to you about this, by the way.
But when you,
it's a good thing you brought it up.
But when you watch Archie, you can't help but sympathize for it. You know what I mean?
Man,
you can't help but feel for him and almost start pulling for him at times. The way that they put the show together.
Well, you talking about MASH, how it would go from being comical to just being damn dead serious. That's how All in the Family is.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it is.
It's like I remember watching this. Of course, that was when I was really young, but I remember watching the episode where Edith died.
Oh, that's gut wrenching.
And it just kills you, man. And you go back, and even now I watched it, and I'm like, my God. And anyway, of course, Norman Lear was a genius.
He was.
I mean, that's Sanford and Son and Good Jefferson's
Family, Good Times.
Good Times.
Maud.
Yeah.
There's a documentary on Netflix. I don't remember the name of it, but it's about Norman Lear.
Oh, man.
Oh, really?
And, I can't remember the name of it, but
I need to look that up. I'd like to watch that.
It's really good.
Hell, he's not been dead that long. He died recently, didn't he?
Wasn't he almost like 100-year-old?
100-year-old?
Yeah, he was way up there.
Yeah. And, but yeah, All in the Family is probably, well, the camera work. I mean, it's the first time, they'll have these wide shots and then all of a sudden, boom, they're right here on Archie. Yeah. That was new. Didn't see that before then.
Yeah.
And he was a very physical. He was very good with the physical comedy. He had those eyes, and the expressions, and the thing, all the stuff he did. Another one that was great at probably one of the best at physical style comedy was Dan Larroquette and with Night Court.
Oh yeah,
he plays that bumbling fool.
I forgot about it.
In Stripes, remember he's the bumbling officer in Stripes.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
I love Stripes. That's
physically,
me too.
Comical. It's just so great.
It's a perfect movie. It's got John Candy in it too. I mean,
I know.
I say Lighten Up Francis to my kids all the time.
Too. I do.
There's so many movies. There's so many movies like Attaboy Luther, Lighten Up Francis. Yeah. There's so many lines I pull out on my kids all the time.
Yeah.
And what's funny, the movie Sling Blade is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I just realized not too long ago that my daughter hadn't seen it.
Oh Lord!
And I was like, "Are you serious?" Because I've talked to their entire life, and I talk to them like goals a lot of times. I'll say things to them.
Well, since she wasn't much bigger than a squirrel,
And I told her when she told me she hadn't watched it, I was like, "You know what?" I said, "If you watch this movie, I said I want you to watch it with me, and when you do, your life's going to make so much more sense." Because I can't count the times that I've quoted that movie to them growing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you talk about Sling Blade to people that have seen it and don't basically worship it like we do, because I do.
I do too.
I'm like, it's a comedy. They're like, no, it's not. My God, it kills him at the end. I've been like, no, it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. That's something too. Like my mom is very, very tenderhearted. And I said, Mom, you got to watch this movie. It's the funniest movie of all time.
Oh my God.
It's so good. It's one of the funniest movies you'll ever see. And Mom watched it. She said, "I wiped away tears." She's like, "That's the saddest thing I've ever seen." Like, how could you think that was funny? And I'm laughing at things Doyle's saying. And the reason I'm laughing at Doyle is because, man, he reminded me of so many people I grew up with.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I don't think anyone but Dwight Yoakam, somebody born in Pikeville, Kentucky, or raised, he had to be the guy to play that.
He didn't even get nominated for an Oscar. And come on.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And he's good in other things too.
Yeah,
he was in he was in that Four Christmases movie, but he was also was he in Daddy and Them too? Because that was
Billy.
That's a very underrated movie. I'm glad you said that.
Keep your damn thick ass baloney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, Jesus was a carpenter.
Yeah.
He's like
Andy Griffith plays his dad.
Andy Griffith plays his dad. John Prine plays his brother.
In it.
And Jim Varney plays his uncle.
That's old Pondwater. That's her favorite. Beth Rainwater. I call her.
That's a great
Pondwater.
movie.
That's got Laura Dern.
Yeah.
That's her mama. That's her real mama.
Really?
The blonde-headed lady.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course, Bruce Dern's her daddy, but that's her mama. She was in a movie together with Nick Cage called Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Years ago. But that's Laura Dern's mom. We talk about Bruce Dern being Bruce Dern's a great actor, period.
Oh, yeah.
But, it also had Travolta's wife in it, who passed away. She was one of the sisters that was Laura Dern's sister. I forget her name, but
Yeah, I think that movie's underrated. I was talking to my good buddy our good buddy Wayne Bledsoe about that one, and it had slipped past him, and I was like, dude, you got to see that.
Oh, yes.
Because it's I don't know why it didn't become as big as Sling Blade, or, because it's just priceless from front to back.
Well, that opening scene where they're fighting and arguing out in the yard, I'm like, God, this feels, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there for that.
Yeah. So we've touched on all kinds of things, and I've been like, so just, we started doing this a little while ago, and a lot of these same things that we're talking about will come up in this, but, you want to, try your hand at the first thing you think of, or questions like that, questions. Just some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
What was, what is your favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show? God. Well, like it's almost Andy Griffith by default. It really is. But I'm a big fan of the show Justified. I love Justified. It's probably up there for me. I know we like to do our Mount Rushmores, and Justified might be on it with Andy Griffith. And like I said, I'm kind of all over the board. Like, it's one of those things where I'm going to love Justified and Andy Griffith MASH, and I love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
But I just love the character of Boyd Crowder on Justified.
He makes it.
He absolutely made it. And he reminds me of people, like when I watch that show, he reminds me of people I grew up with in Middlesboro. Like, there's just these old timers that was that way. You know what I mean? And if I could have wrote my Justified ending, not to spoil it for anybody, but if I could have wrote my Justified ending.
Well, wait a minute. It's older than the Sopranos. So,
yeah. I just want to let you know that Judge and Stanton just hit back-to-back home runs.
Oh, my God.
Go Yankees.
You got a stink bug in your beard. Hold still. Go ahead,
But
Brandon.
no, like there's a scene in Justified where Boyd confronts these guys and tells them what kind of deal he wants, and he said, I want $100,000 each for my men. He's like, and I want a Dairy Queen franchise. And I love that whole thing. So if I could write the Justified ending myself, you would just fast forward years later. Boyd would somehow get out of prison on some kind of deal. Somehow they would work it to where he made it out. And you would just see Raylan walk into a Dairy Queen, and Boyd would be sitting there. He'd almost look like Baby Billy from Righteous Gemstones. His hair would be slicked back white. And they'd just be like, hello, Raylan. Like, hello, Boyd. And they'd just sit down. Because I know so many people from back home. Yeah. I just know so many people from back home. I would watch that and I'd go, man, this is kind of like, reminds me of people I grew up with.
Oh, absolutely.
That would have definitely been that real life Boyd Crowder. But
absolutely.
That's definitely one of my favorites.
That's a show I put off for a long time. I thought, because I
was worried about it myself, because
I don't really like Oliphant. But I love him in that.
Raylan, absolutely. Well, I was a little bit worried about it because I'm from I grew up in Bell County, Kentucky, and Harlan's right next door, and I got family from over there. And it's one of those things where you say to yourself, "Oh no, are they going to like make this like some sort of slapstick Southern like cliche bullshit?" You're afraid of that. But no, I thought they did it justice.
Oh, they did. It's fantastic.
It was Justified.
It was Justified.
Hey, what's the best book you've read?
Oh man. I have two that pops to mind. I love The Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The Grapes of Wrath is one of my favorites.
Sammy's a big one on that.
Because I've never watched the movie because
Lord,
I've never watched. The only reason I've never watched the movie is because the book is so good that I know what it looks like in my head, and I don't want to see it. You know what I mean?
To interject right there, I will tell you to watch the movie, because I'm telling you right now, Fonda will give you chills.
Really?
Oh my God. That opening scene. I'm like you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a couple of literary things
where it's been out for 700 fucking years.
It's have you seen it?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
We won the War of 1812.
Grapes of Wrath, the movie, he is perfect in it, man.
I'll have to check it out.
It's one of the things that, like, I'm like you. I love the books.
Yeah.
But that and Lonesome Dove are two of the things that were filmed and did them justice. And that right there.
I'll have to check it out.
Rose of Sharon and all that shit, man, that's a great film.
But if I was making a Mount Rushmore books, it would probably be The Grapes of Wrath would be there. I also love the book of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. I love that.
Another great movie.
I love Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. and Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail by Hunter S. Thompson. That's one that's just like the Bible to me. Yeah. I'm a huge Hunter S. Thompson mark. And I love Hell's Angels, because I've always been a fan of that line in Hell's Angels where he says, the edge, there's no honest way to explain it, because the only ones who truly know where it is are the ones who have went over. I love that line.
It is.
But I just
that
really,
is a good line.
I just really love Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail.
I haven't read that. I mean,
it's really good. And it I love how that it makes you, if you read it, it makes you realize just how, I hear people today talk about politics and they'll talk about how dirty it's became and how, it's been dirty from day one.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been one of those things there's a really good podcast called American Elections, The Wicked Game. It goes back and it starts from Washington and works every single election.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And they've always been like the things you see them do today and you go, oh, that was so low. That was so cold or whatever. No, it's always been that way.
Yeah. It's just now we get it instantly. Yeah. Everybody gets to see it up
exactly.
Front. Yeah. Did you, back on the book real quick.
Yeah.
When you read Grapes of Wrath, did you think about Merle Haggard? Because that's basically how his life was. He's like, that
I can see
Dust Bowl, moving to California because you're starving kind of thing. That's kind of how he, that was the first thing I
didn't think that, but I can so see that now that you pointed it out.
Yeah.
And it's one thing I always tell people about Merle Haggard, they could make a movie about his life before he ever even played music.
Oh, hell yes.
And it would be an epic movie if they never even touched on the music. Yeah. People don't realize what a life he lived before he ever wrote a song or sang a song, or we knew him as Merle Haggard.
Yeah.
And I know we're all big fans of him, but
there's there's a Austin City Limits of him from 1980, 79 or 80. And he does Mama Tried, but he starts out with a song he's got called Tulare Dust. And it'll put you right in the mind of Grapes of Wrath, man. It's anyway, go ahead.
One of my favorite Haggard tunes that I don't think gets enough love is the song Holding Things Together.
Oh,
it's just one verse, one chorus, and that's it. But he says
that's all he needs.
That's all he needed. The line where he says, he wrote the letter and he signed it, Love Mama, so Angie wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's such a.
Oh, it's a tremendous song.
Yeah.
That one, and I think another one that's really underrated is Carolyn.
Oh, yeah. It's another one.
Just when you think you figured out what he's talking about, there's the twist, and it's like, all right, bitches better be listening.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, best fair food.
Best fair food?
Yeah. What's your favorite fair food?
Oh, man.
Carnival food, any of that shit.
Probably just a good old corn dog.
It's been kind of.
it's just a staple.
Yeah, that's kind of been the. That's kind of been the consensus for
funnel cakes grew on me. Like I used to not like them when I was younger. I never really cared for them, but
they're
now
fucking messy for me. Yeah. But I love them.
But now I can enjoy one.
Yeah.
If you could live in any decade forever, which one would it be?
That's a great question. Oh, man. Well, I mean, as far as the decades that I've lived through myself, I'm always going to go back to the 80s, being a kid, growing up in the 80s and everything that came with growing up in the 80s. When I think back in time, like to a time when I wasn't around, but I look back and go, that would have been an interesting time to be around. I think it definitely would have been interesting to have been around in the 60s and around the time when the Beatles came to America and just everything that happened in the world during that era. But, I think the 80s just holds a special place for me just because it's my childhood.
Yeah.
Me too.
And,
if you could meet one man and or one woman from history, who would they be?
Oh man, that's another great question, man. You're laying them on. I know this is completely out of left field.
Yeah, sure.
But I would love to meet Judas Iscariot in the Bible.
All right.
And the reason being is I would just like to hear his side of that story and like why he did what he did. Because when I read that story, the one glaring thing that always leaps out at me, not to get too philosophical here, but the one thing that leaps out at me is that Jesus tells him in the Bible, one of you here has to betray me. One of you's got to be the one to do it. And he says, it's he that's dipping his bread in the dish with me at this point. And he looks over at him and he says, what you have to do it quickly. So he told him to. And I've always kind of argued that, is he really a traitor? Because he was told to do it. And so I would love to hear his side. Like, what was it like being that guy in that predicament to be the guy that had to do that?
That's a good one.
That's very good.
I've thought about that whole scenario many, many times.
Yeah, it's always been one of the things in the Bible that leaped off the page to me that made me think, because he's always portrayed like he's this backstabber.
Yeah.
But you're like, they were sitting there and he tells him to. So I would love to hear his side.
It's interesting on that Judas thing. I researched some of it, that he was the one of the disciples of the group. He carried their money around. He was the money man. He was the one that had the money. So then he sold him out for 30,
30 pieces of silver.
Yeah.
If you could live anywhere.
Live anywhere? Oh man. I've never even visited it, but I've always wanted to visit out like places like Montana, Wyoming, just those wide open places.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list to see those things. I've never been. And as far as like maybe overseas, I've always wanted to visit Japan. And Japan's always been a place I've wanted to go.
Yeah, I would like to visit Japan as well. As far as from a kid's point of view, or from your point of view, and it could be whatever, but do you have a restaurant that you miss the most?
Well, we was talking about it in between episodes a while ago. I really love the restaurant Druthers. And there's one left in Campbellsville, Kentucky. I actually did a members only YouTube video of that where I visited it and sat there and ate the food and tried it out. And I also love a place called Rack's. It was a roast beef place.
I remember that.
Had the best chocolate chip milkshake in the world.
They did.
Oh,
those are two from my childhood. I love.
I saw a tornado. I got a Rack story. They used to be one in Pigeon Forge.
Really?
For years. And it was right down from the Ogles. And we were up there one day and we were coming back going to Ogles, and there was a tornado that came down in Pigeon Forge. It came down, but it didn't. And we were headed to Rack's.
Yep.
Best chocolate chip milkshake on the planet.
They were great.
Oh, God. I forgot about Rack's.
What was your first car?
My first car was I don't remember
I just like you're smiling about it.
Well, I don't remember the year, but it was a Dodge Shadow.
Oh,
it was a little red Dodge Shadow. That was my first car.
Nice. What's your dream car?
Dream car. Oh man, I don't know if I have a dream car as much as I've always wanted one of those old '72 Chevrolet pickup trucks. Always wanted one of those, and I've always had Fords.
You going short bed or long bed?
Like the long bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a great body style. They only made it from 68 to 72, I think.
Yeah.
72 was my favorite. Had the double chrome.
Yeah.
When were you the most scared?
Oh man. The most scared. Oh damn. That's really tough. I don't know if I can tell some of them.
We can circle back.
Yeah. But no, I'm terrified of heights. I'm absolutely terrified of heights. And one of my earliest memories is being on a Ferris wheel with my grandmother, and it got stuck. And we were on top, and it malfunctioned, and we're sitting there rocking back and forth on that thing. And they're like, "It'll be a while. Sorry, guys." And we're just up there, and I was terrified, man.
Yeah.
I really was. And just
how old were you?
I was less than 5-year-old. I don't think I started school yet. It's one of my earliest memories. And in that moment of being terrified, I reached over to kind of hug her because I was scared. I was like trying to pull away, and she had a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, and her cigarette landed on my arm. So now I'm burned, and I'm up there, and I'm just like, oh, let me down. And I have never got back on a Ferris wheel since. I went out to San Francisco back in April and met some friends out there, and went out there, and there was this massive Ferris wheel there on the bay.
Yeah.
And they was like, we want you to ride that. And it was one of those indoor ones, like where you
gondola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I can. And And they're like, oh, you'll get to see the whole bay or whatever. And I was sitting there, I was like, okay. And I'm going along with it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can. And then we get to it and it was broke down and tore up. And part of me was like, I'm so glad. I'm so relieved.
One more for the good guys, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is Star Wars or Star Trek?
I've never watched either.
Really?
Born in the 80s. I think I might have sat through part of a Star Trek episode, but I've never watched a Star Wars movie. And my son is 23 years old and he loves it all. And he's like, Dad, how did you grow up back then and miss that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. You might be the only person.
I know. I've still not met anyone. Like when I talk to people our age, they're like, what? What's funny, I had the toys growing up. I had shirts. There's a picture of me when I'm a kid. One of my favorite pictures from childhood. I've got a Star Wars shirt on in the picture. Yeah. But
was your parents glad when you discovered what fire was? Okay, this is going to be a little tough one because I know, and we don't have to get into the top 7 or whatever. Just say what you want to say.
All right.
But top 7 favorite wrestlers.
Oh God. All right.
No Mount Rushmore shit.
No Mount Rushmore. Top 7.
It's who you like. You know what I'm saying?
So top 7?
Oh, yeah.
We did a series on top 7s. That's why
it's on there as top 7.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you asked this because there's so many. Beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Oh, yeah.
Is up there for me. I love
Alabama
Beautiful Bobby
Jam.
Eaton. I love the Great Muda. Barry Windham is up there for me. Ric Flair, obviously. Roddy Piper. Let's see. I got 2 more. I have to throw The Undertaker on there. I just absolutely love and adore The Undertaker.
No reason why you wouldn't.
And I know this is kind of a wild card, but I really love Terry Bam Bam Gordy.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that's just 7 off the top of my head. And if you ask me tomorrow, I loved Wahoo McDaniel when I was a kid. So there's so many. I could do a backside. I remember one time I seen Undertaker's podcast. I listen to it all the time. And he did one where he did a Mount Rushmore of something. Then he said, well, if I was doing the backside of Mount Rushmore, and that's kind of me. I consider name them all day. Those 7 I just rattled off would be up there for me.
What about your top 7 favorite actors?
Oh, Walton Goggins. Is Boyd Crowder. I love Walton Goggins.
Hey, guess what? Won't be anybody in Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah, that's right.
Walton Goggins will be up there. Don Knotts has to be on that. I really love Billy Bob Thornton. Let's see. I love Robert De Niro. Let's see. Who else? We got 3 more. Let's see. I love Ray McKinnon. He's another actor I really like a lot. So that's 5. If I had 2 more. I would probably have to throw Carl O'Connor on there. I love him. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. I'll get down the road halfway home and go, oh, I can't believe I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of some of my favorite movies. But I would probably have to throw Morgan Freeman in there.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good one. What about albums?
Oh, man. I could talk about albums the rest of the day.
We just need 7.
Just need 7. Well, one that I'd have to throw on there by default, and it's not necessarily an album, but it was to me, was Hank Sr.'s 24 Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
That was one that made me want to write songs. I heard that and was like, I want to write songs. I really love, Merle Haggard, serving 190 proof.
That's my favorite.
Is up there for me. Let's see.
That's a good one.
Pronounced Leonard Skinner would have to be on there for me. And then I would probably go, and it's hard for me to pick just one, but if someone twisted my arm, I'd probably pick Southern Rock Opera by Drive By Truckers, Car Wheels on a Gravel Road by Lucinda. I love the album Jerusalem by Steve Earle. And Flat and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. That's some good ones. Some good ones.
That's my favorite Haggard album.
It's so good, man.
It's got the perfect 3-song start. I mean, it's just perfect.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh man. I love Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Wile E. Coyote. I was always pulling for Wile E. Coyote. But I absolutely had Popeye the Sailor Man's another one for me that I just absolutely loved.
All right. Let's see here. Candy bars.
Oh, my daughter asked me this the other day. Me and my daughter had this conversation. How many you want me to name?
Just whatever you
However
want.
many.
Sure.
Well, I just love a good old Snicker bar, man.
Yeah.
The Snicker bar is one of my favorites.
Number one selling candy bar in the world by far. Yep.
I love the Snicker bar. I also love the Reese's Fast Break.
I've had one.
I like those. And I like Carmelo's. And Kit Kat would probably be up there for me. When I go into I was thinking like, what would I do if I went in a gas station right now? And also like, but they used to make, they've still got something out there that's similar to it. Nowadays they have Snickers with almonds, but back in the day they had the Mars bar.
Yeah.
And I love the Mars bar.
Yeah. I was always a Mr. Goodbar fan too.
That's a good one too.
You always got that in the little miniature Halloween candy, Mr. Goodbar.
Yeah, I kind of like those. The miniature one's better for some reason.
Crackles and Special Darks. That's the one we didn't want as kids. Is the special.
No,
I mean now though, but the Crunch bars, the little ones are great.
Yeah. Stand-up comedians.
Oh man, Bill Hicks is probably my favorite ever. I love Bill Hicks. I love Sam Kinison. George Carlin is way up there for me. I loved Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah.
And Red Fox. I had back when I was growing up. My dad used to. It was
Wash your ass.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's what I started to tell. Back when I was growing up, I used to hang stuff all over my walls, and I hung that album. You got to wash your ass in my room.
Yeah.
And my dad would walk in every now and then to have a conversation with me or something. He'd look around the room and he'd see all my albums and posters hanging on the wall. And he'd be like, "Do you have to hang that up?" I'm like, yeah, I love that one.
Oh shit. Okay, this is a good one because I know you're a fan as well. But so your top 7 boxers.
Boxers, oh man. Well, I have to say Mike Tyson right out of the gate because I was a child of the 80s.
Yeah, sure.
And
You've seen him more than anybody.
Yeah, I've seen him more than anybody.
Yeah.
Tyson's up there for me. And I love Ali, of course. I was also a big Roberto Duran fan. I love Duran.
So watched a great 30 for 30 on that.
Yeah, Duran was great. I love Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
He's another one. Marvelous Marvin. He was so good. Let's see.
Was you a Hearns fan?
I loved Hearns. Hearns is great.
Tommy.
I read a really good book. I've read it more than once. It's called The Four Kings, and it's about Leonard, Duran, Hagler, and Hearns, and they talk about how they all four fought each other, and they break down each match. And yeah, I can pretty much put any of those on there. And somebody that I just really enjoyed, and he don't get talked about enough. I just really always enjoyed Riddick Bowe.
Yeah,
I always liked Riddick Bowe. I thought he was, some of my favorite fights I've seen was Bowe.
I was a big Larry Holmes fan.
Holmes is great. I think Holmes had probably had the greatest jab of all time.
The best jab of all time.
And he had a hell of a chin. If you watch that match,
fucking 410 shotgun hit.
Yeah, if you watch that match where Ernie Shavers hits him and he just falls like a tree. I mean, he fought, boom, the sweat flies out of his head and he hits the ground and he got up off the mat and won that thing.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Ernie Shavers, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and,
I remember that.
It was so cool. What was so wild about this, I met him at the Claiborne County High School up in home there. And he was just sitting over at a table by himself. He had some stuff he was selling and signing autographs, and nobody was walking over to his booth. I was like, that's Ernie Shavers, So me and my good buddy Tony Brock goes over, and we just sat and talked with him. He didn't run us off because we were just like fangirling out over him,
Yeah.
And I had to ask him about that Holmes fight. I was like, God. And he said, I thought I was the champ of the world when I hit that. He said, I thought that's it. It's over. He said, but when he got up and looked at me, I knew I was done. I knew that there was nothing.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I've got. That's the best I've got
when
right
he
there.
looked at him.
He said when he turned around and looked at me from the other side of the ring, he said, I was like, I'm screwed. And I asked him, I said, because Shavers was known as being a heavy hitter.
Yeah.
I said to him, I said, who hit you the hardest? I said, you've been known as one of the biggest hitters of all time. I said, but who hit you the hardest? And he looked at me and he goes, Ron Lyle. He said, Ron Lyle hit me right here. And he said, when I touched that part of he said, I can still feel it if I press on it.
Wow.
To this day, where Ron Lyle hit it.
Damn.
There was that classic fight between, I don't know if you ever saw Ron Lyle and George Foreman. It's like a bar fight. It's just like Hagler and Hearns. It's like one goes down, the other one gets up. One goes down, the other one gets up. And so, yeah, Ron Lyle hit like a truck, but that's who he said hit him the hardest.
Wow. What about horror movies? Are you a horror movie fan?
Not as much. I've never been too big on horror movies, but the ones that, if I had to name my favorites, I really like the very first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Scared the piss out of me.
We said that more than once.
And the reason I like it so good is because I think over time, Freddy Krueger kind of morphed into almost being a comedic kind of character as time went on. But in that very first one, he's such a ruthless villain.
God.
And he's scary as shit.
And gets you in your sleep. It's scary.
Oh, he does. And another one that I liked that a lot of people never know. I always liked the old movie Pumpkinhead.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I loved Pumpkinhead.
Has that got Lance Henriksen?
I think so, yeah.
What about mob movies?
Mob movies. I love Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I think Goodfellas is about the standard one on that. And I love The Godfathers, obviously, but I really liked part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
They both, I mean, I never was too big on 3, but I really liked 2. I liked how it went back and showed you how that Vito Corleone came to be, and De Niro played him so good.
It was that's De Niro's best role.
I think so too. And he was actually cast to be Luca Brasi in the first one.
I did not know that.
De Niro was cast to be Luca Brasi, and he got the part, and he was all excited to be in the movie. And then they called him and was like, "Hey, we've decided not to use you for this one. Sorry, we'll call you later or whatever." And he said he was heartbroken, just destroyed. But had he played Luca Brasi,
he wouldn't have been.
He would. What was he?
Vito in the
he was on the screen like a few minutes, and then he got to come back and play Vito, young Vito. So he talked about how it worked out for him.
The guy that played Luca was actually a bruiser. I mean, he wasn't necessarily just an actor. He was.
Yeah. What about superheroes?
Superhero. I always loved Superman.
Yeah.
Me and my kids talks a lot about that because my sons are into those kind of movies more so than I was growing up, and they love. All my kids love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Batman, and I love Batman too. But something about I just love the old Christopher Reeves as Superman.
Me too.
Yeah. Movie villains.
I love the Joker. I've always loved the Joker. Movie villains. The Joker would definitely be at the top for me. And I think about a lot of TV villains, like people that was villains on TV. Of course, I guess Walter White would be considered a villain.
Yeah,
but,
that's fine.
But as far as movies, I love the Joker, and for sure.
Well, what about it's not written down, but I had it. What about cowboy movies?
Cowboy movies. I didn't watch a whole lot of those growing up. I actually ended up getting into those a little bit later in life. But I love the trilogy of Clint Eastwood.
Man with No
Fistful of Dollars, or wait,
Few dollars more,
and then Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Right.
I absolutely love those.
Nice. Movie heroes.
You mean character wise or actor wise?
I guess character wise, actor.
Either
or.
That's a great one. I don't know. Movie heroes.
The first one I thought about was James Bond.
Yeah.
If that helps you any.
Mine was Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And our villains were Darth Vader,
Oh yeah, that's
and
I said Gene Hackman from Unforgiven.
oh god, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Little
then
Bill.
Man,
and
Fucking lowering a snake's belly in a wagon rut. Man.
yes.
And I think it was Wayne that said the other one that I mentioned, which was in No Country for Old Men.
Yes.
Sugar.
Yeah.
In that movie, man.
You know, I went and watched that movie at the theater and didn't get it. Like I watched it at the theater when it happened, and I was like, "What did I just watch?" And then I kind of walked out going, "It was one of those movies where when it ended, I thought I had another 20 minutes to go,
right?"
And I was like, "What the hell just happened?" And then years later, I went back and watched it again. I was like, "Damn, that was a masterpiece in the movie."
That's another one where the book, all that dialogue and shit that's in the movie's in the book. I mean, it's just especially that scene with you remember that scene where he's at the gas station with the old man, he flips the quarter.
Yeah.
That's straight out of the book.
Oh,
line for line. Yeah.
What about Christmas movies?
A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
I can't even, I don't even have to think about that one, man.
No, me neither. Me neither.
The second one's good too.
Yeah.
That newer one.
I haven't watched the newer one.
Oh, it's good. I was afraid to watch it, but he watched it first.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you got to
good.
see it. And
It's
I
good.
watched it. I said, oh man, it did a great job of not trying to be the first one, but still paying respect to the first one.
I love the line where he talks about his dad worked in profanity like some people works in vinyl. I love the narrator in that was just so good.
Yeah.
The old man left a tapestry of profanity that still to this day hangs over Lake Michigan. Yeah, I love that shit. Oh man. What's your favorite dessert? Are you a dessert guy? You a sweet tooth guy?
Yeah, I love dessert, man. And I love apple pie with ice cream on top.
That's my favorite.
Hot apple pie with ice cream.
That's my number one.
That's it.
Right there.
What's your favorite ice cream flavors?
Butter pecan.
That's mine too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what I love about it, I love how you got I love the cold meats when you get that pecan, like biting into the pecan with that cold on it.
That's what Daddy always bought was butter pecan. By God, I like butter pecan.
Is there life on other planets?
Probably.
Is old music better?
Not necessarily.
Is Bigfoot real?
I probably. I mean, it's one of those things where like either it's real or it's like the greatest story ever. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like I don't want to rule it out.
What was Poe had said?
Poe's the best answer.
Poe said, "Yeah, it's just more fun to believe."
Yeah, it is.
Did you ever find any razor blades in your Halloween candy?
Never did.
Well, we were warned.
We didn't either.
I was always terrified of it.
Oh, I know. I know.
And I warn my kids about it to this day. Like, hey, be careful. But
oh shit. Is the early Beatles better than the later Beatles?
Oh man. I wouldn't. I don't think so. However, I did really grow to appreciate early Beatles later in life. Like when I was younger growing up, my mom loved early Beatles and mom didn't even get into the later stuff. So it was the White Album that sold me on the Beatles. I loved that album and that era. But then the older I got and I went back and listened to some of that, early stuff, I was like, this is really good stuff. And I played with a bass player who passed away not too long ago, Tommy Harrell. And he loved a lot of that stuff. And when he would sit in with us and play bass, he always wanted to do stuff like She saw her standing there. Yeah.
Saw her standing.
And there's songs like that that I think is very underrated. And like the song "Babies in Black" and "I'm Feeling Blue." I think I love early Beatles now, but if you'd asked me that question back when I was in high school, I'd be like, "Oh no, I don't care for that."
Right.
Yeah,
I really grew to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is vinyl really better?
I tell you what I enjoy about vinyl. I don't know that it's better, but I tell you what I enjoy. I enjoy the little hiss you get right before the song starts. Yeah. And that's what I think's missing from like Spotify. When you skip songs on Spotify and you go to the next song, boom, it starts. But there's something about that right before the music hits that I absolutely love.
Yeah. And you think, oh, this is going to sound like shit. Oh, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does a full moon really make people crazy?
I think so, yeah.
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 I used to not think that, but here lately, I definitely do.
Do blondes have more fun?
Probably not. I'm a brunette guy.
Yeah.
Ghosts. Have you seen one?
I have a story. I have two stories. That are ghost stories. That's just so over the top ridiculous. There used to be this like legend when I was growing up back home in Middlesboro, Kentucky. There's a road called Old Pineville Pike. And this was like the most ridiculous story I ever heard growing up. Someone spray painted AC/DC in the road on Old Pineville Pike. They just spray painted AC/DC. And they said that if you would go there at midnight and park your car on where it said AC/DC and play Hell's Bells, wait till the bell chimed so many times, then take off driving, that a hearse would chase you. That was the legend, the rumor. So me and my cousins, like, when I got old enough to drive, we're going to try that. So we go down there, we park on that spot, we sit there, it's midnight, boom. We do it, we drive away, nothing happens. And I'm like, yeah, it was bullshit. There ain't nothing to do that. So fast forward like a year or so later, we're driving down Old Pineville Pike and we get right about to that spot where AC/DC's on the road. And man, somebody got on my bumper and like, they're like right on my tail and they start flashing their lights at me. And they're like these round headlights. They're just like flashing at us. And my cousin was with me and I was like, what the hell? I ain't stopping because there's really nowhere to stop.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the middle of nowhere. I'm like, I'm not stopping. So I just laid down on the gas thinking I'll outrun this person. And no matter how fast I got it up to, they would not get off. They stayed right there. And we're starting to panic. And then all of a sudden those lights just goes out and there was no place for the car to turn to get away. And me and my cousin drove back several times looking like they had to have ran off the road. Something had to have happened and we never saw it. That's probably my closest brush. And then another one I was playing.
Was Meatloaf driving?
I don't know. He may have been. But another one that I've never been able to explain. I was telling a friend of mine this long ago, telling my daughter too. I was playing at the Starlight in Jellicoe, Tennessee. And we were a 4-piece band, 2 guitars, bass, and drums. And I don't know why a ghost would show up at this moment, but we're playing the song Fast As You by Dwight Yoakam. And all of a sudden we hear an organ. I mean, all of us heard it. And we're going like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? So I start looking over the guitar player thinking he's got some kind of pedal. And I'm looking down at his feet and he don't have any. And I'm going, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not doing anything. What are you doing? Look back at the drummer's like, what's going on? And so the whole band heard this organ just playing. And
it's got an organ in the song.
It's got an organ in the song. And I was like, what the hell? So I walked up to the owner and on the break and I was like, hey, did you hear an organ playing earlier? He's like, yeah, was you boys playing one? I was like, no, we weren't playing. We don't even have an organ up there. And he said, oh, okay. I said, but we heard one. He said, yeah, I hear one in here from time to time when I'm cleaning up. And I was like, it's just nonchalant as hell. And I was like, he said, I don't know. He said, we've got a ghost in here. He said, I see her from time to time. He said, she's friendly. He said, she don't bother nobody. He said, but I've seen her sitting on the tables, seen her sitting at the bar. And I was like, he just sold it. No. I'm sitting there going like, okay. He said, I don't think I know. He said, that's carpet on the stage. He said, I got that out of the funeral home back when they tore it down. He said, I got the funeral home carpet and put it on the stage. He's like, I don't know.
God.
Good.
That's my 2 moments that I can't explain.
That gave me the chills.
Wow.
So I don't know why a ghost would want to show up and play on Fast As You.
It's got that intro that all of a sudden, right there.
It came in.
Yeah.
I was like, where is this coming from? I think we was literally trying to break it down because there was a beer light that was hanging, kind of like that Schlitz sign over there. There was this beer light that kept feeding into one of the guitar player's amps, and we unplugged that light so it would quit buzzing. And I was like, was it the light? We was trying every way in the world to explain that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I've played that part. I've done it.
Oh, shit. All right. We got just a few more. Couple more.
It's been a lot of fun.
I got to go.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Did we go to the moon?
Yeah.
Is the earth round?
Yeah.
Do hitmen exist?
Absolutely.
Yes, they do.
Are all men created equal?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Brandon, love you, buddy.
Love you guys, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a good time.
Yeah, man. It's been fun.
I'm going to be thinking about that damn fast as you order thing all night long. So you know what Brandon said.
How was your cigars, boys?
Oh, man.
It was great,
Mine
man.
was really good.
Mine was
They never
good.
disappoint.
I smoked it down to the nub. Boxworthy?
No, 5-pack. It's good, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste it.
These unless you just find a really, really good deal, don't worry about buying the 135th thing. Just get the irregular Oliva V's. And they are box worthy, I think.
Yeah, especially the Melania V is really box worthy.
We know your opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
You love those.
I do. Yep,
Hoya
they're
de
definitely
Nicaragua.
box worthy.
Antonio, Connecticut. Well, folks, that's it. That's that. We've had a really great time here tonight with our old buddy, and hopefully we'll get to see you again soon. Thanks again for the awesome T-shirt.
Thank you.
Anytime I can support Greg the Hammer Valentine, I am happy to do so. But be kind to one another, love each other. It doesn't cost anything to be kind, but there's always a definite price to be paid for cruelty. So, that being said, you want to do another one?
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you next time. Remember, life's too short to smoke bad cigars. Cheers. One more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.